Now let's keep going here. What we want to do is we want to make the submenus invisible. Okay, so what we're going to do here, this is page 5 of the notes. Okay, so we are going to add in some styles here again, and notice it's always the styles we're working on. So let's call this Roxo 5, and let's make sure that we are going to use our new code. Okay, so just a little thing to point out to you. How do you do a comment in a CSS document like that? Okay, /* and then the text goes green behind it, and then */ at the end. Okay, so let's put these in here. What we want to do now is we want to do two things here. We want to make our menus and submenus disappear, but we also want to position them for when they eventually will appear. Okay, now the CSS selectors here may look a little bit odd. Okay, nav space ul space ul. Okay, so what this refers to is the first ul the first ul that's inside a ul, inside a nav. Okay, so essentially, which is going to be the words igneous, sedimentary, metamorphic. Okay, because the rock types is the only list item under UL, and then we've got three unordered lists inside that. Okay, but then we've got our particular types of igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic rocks, granite, and so on. Okay, so we need to write nav space UL space UL space UL. Okay, so this is starting to look really complicated. Okay, but it's not really. Go back to the HTML. Look at what the story is here. Okay, so nav space ul space ul, comma, nav space ul space ul space ul. Okay, so what am I doing here? I am making the second unordered list invisible. And here I'm making the third unordered list invisible. Okay, so the second and the third. Just show you where that refers to. Okay, or I should say the second level and the third level. Okay, so here's the second level, okay, which is igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. And then remember, each of those has got its own third level. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so coming back here, this CSS selector here makes one unordered list invisible. Okay, there's only one at the second level, but this CSS selector here makes 3 unordered lists invisible. Okay, at the third level. There are 3 at the third level. Okay, so there's one unordered list at the first level. Okay, there's one unordered list at the second level, and there are 3 unordered lists at the third level. So we want to make them invisible at the start, and then we want to position them so they're going to become visible in a particular place. Okay, so we use absolute positioning for that. I will put up more info. We will put up more information about positioning later on. Okay, display none is going to make them invisible. Okay, display, very important. Display block, display inline block, display none. Okay, you need to be familiar with all of those. And then what I want to do is I want to basically reduce the space above each unordered list. So I'm going to set that to 5px. These are certain numbers you can experiment. These are numbers that I found work best, and margin left as well. Okay, so you can always experiment with these numbers. Do you want the submenus to actually be touching the higher level menu list items or not, or do you want them slightly kind of marooned, slightly island like? That's a matter of sort of taste. And 0 pixels for the padding, and then font size 18px. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. We're now got rocks, and we rock 05. Okay, so when we do that, you can see the second and third order have gone invisible, and notice they're not appearing when we mouse over. So that is good. Okay, let's move on and look at page 6, which is section 5. Okay, so what I want to do now is, at the moment, let's think about this. All of my list items have got a background color of 6Ds. Okay, so very, very light gray. And essentially what I want to do with this is, as I put the mouse over, I want this to become slightly darker gray, and then I want the next unordered list to have an even more dark gray, and then them to become even darker gray. So essentially we're progressively going through shades of gray. Shades of gray, not quite 50, but shades of gray means we have the same amount of red, green and blue. Okay, so we're essentially going to be reducing the values there. So we're going to go, if we go to section 5 here, and this is on page 6, so I better save this as rocks 06. Okay, and make sure we're going to use this new version. Okay, so this can be a very handy way to have a work in progress, and particularly if you're following a lot of instructions. If you save your style sheet for each page of instructions, it means, and if you have problems later on, it means I can go back. Okay, after page 5 everything worked okay. The problem then is in page 6, so it's much easier to fix your code if you do have an error. Okay, so what I want to do now, when we hover on, this is section 5, page 6, when we hover over the list item, okay, I want to basically make my background color darker, and I want to make my text in bold. Okay, so what have we got? We've got nav space ul space li, and then the hover, and this is called a pseudo class. Okay, because it's not always there. Okay, it's there sometimes. That's what the word pseudo is sort of getting at. Okay, and it's kind of like a class. So background color, and this time hash, and then okay, 6 C's. Okay, so 6 C's means same amount of red, green and blue, so it's gray. Okay, each letter is less than D, so we're getting farther away from white and we're getting closer to black. And remember, white is going to be hash 6 F's, black is going to be hash 6 zeros. So all the time getting closer. A little bit darker, okay, a little bit darker gray. Oh, what am I doing here? Font weight. Okay, so we can add that in there, and let's come back. Hold on, we got it in here. Rocks, here we go. Okay, so there we go. You can see that working there. You put the mouse over, it gets a little bit darker, and the link goes grey. Okay, let's move on to page 7. Okay, and this time what we're going to do, okay, let me just save this first. Like that, and come back in here. Okay, and save all. Remember, directly below the SE in the word search, that little icon there means save all. so it'll save everything that's open. And these ones are handy as well. That closes them all directly under the V in view. Anyway, let's move back here to what are we going to do this time. Okay, this time when I hover over the outer link, okay, notice with these pseudo classes that there's no space, okay, before the letter H. There's no blank space. You can see it's not kind of orange anymore, so make sure you don't make that mistake. Okay, so when I hover over the link, what do I want to do with the next unordered list? Okay, this is our middle level, so that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so notice we've got the same, no, sorry, nav ul li hover is there, nav ul li hover. And remember, when there's no comma in the CSS selector, you're sort of going deep down all the time. So this is unordered lists inside the nav, this is list items inside unordered lists, and this is when we hover over a list item. Okay, what's going on here? Nav, unordered list inside a nav, list items inside the unordered list, and then an unordered list inside a list item. Okay, so what do we want to happen here? Okay, we want the second level unordered list to appear. So in other words, we don't want it to be display none, we want it to be display block. And then we want to set its appearance so it looks kind of, it appears exactly where we want it to be. Okay, and again, these are just trial and error really. Okay, so this is when we hover over the outer link of the top level UL, we are going to make the next level, the igneous sedimentary metamorphic level, appear. Okay, but this CSS selector can be read in a slightly different way as well. This CSS selector, excuse me, means any unordered list inside an unordered list. Okay, so if you think about it, the third level, the three third level unordered lists are inside the top level unordered list, but we don't want them appearing. Okay, we don't want them appearing if we just mouse over the very top level unordered list. Okay, so we want to make sure that they stay invisible. Okay, so we are going to get an even longer CSS selector. Okay, so when we hover over the list item, in fact the first unordered list has only got one list item. So when we hover over the list item in the top unordered list, what we want to do is make sure the unordered list at the third level is staying invisible. Okay, so notice this here is repeated here. Okay, so this is going to relate to the second unordered list, but I want to make the third level unordered list invisible. So I'm going to set that to none. Okay, so rox07, and let's look at that, see what happens now. There we go. Okay, so there's the first level, and then this is coming here. Okay, probably haven't put in the color yet. No, I haven't put in the color yet. Okay, but you can see here, put the mouse over the higher level list item, the second level unordered list appears, but the third level unordered list is still